Feelers lie more than thinkers, and this is something that has been interesting for me to realize in recent times, and that's part of mbti. As you know, we've got different types of letters in terms of using it to categorize what kind of personality type we are. And one of the letters, the dichotomies, are thinkers versus feelers, and this is the way that people make decisions based on certain situations and preferences, essentially. So for thinkers, in hindsight, they make more decisions based on logic, whereas feelers makes decisions based on more of the overall impact on other people. So it's more of a feeling kind of cognitive function. And with that, it's very interesting for me to say, and for me to come to a sort of a conclusion here, which is purely anecdotal, but it's through lots of testing, I guess, and lots of self-awareness work, in the fact that, for me personally, I'm a feeler, and one of my best friends who's highly self-aware, he's a thinker. So we'll kind of have a weird dynamic there where we can actually bounce off different ideas of each other, and to really understand the different functions and how it presents itself within each of us, and how we think differently, and how through those differences we can actually understand ourselves a bit better. So essentially what I'm saying here is that the theory is feelers, or people with S in their MBTI as a character traits, are more likely to tell lies and compared to thinkers, and here is the reason why. So you might think that telling lies is a bad thing, and essentially it is a bad thing, because if you are to lie, then obviously you're lying not only to yourself but also to other people that you're lying to, and if you get found out, usually it's not a good thing. But the fundamental difference here, what I believe in terms of the lying, is not because feelers want to cause any harm. So let me explain. So when we talk about lying, I think people have a general perception that if you were to lie to someone about something, it's not in a positive way. So they might be doing it to cover a mistake they've done, or they might be doing it to cause harm, or generally it's not, you don't associate lying with a positive thing, right? But having analyzed it a bit more, and thinking more deeply about it and being a bit more self-aware about it, I feel that most people that do lie, and the ones that are feelers and they're more prone to lying, are lying because they fundamentally don't want to, in the short-term sense, they don't want to hurt the feelings of the other person, hence why they lie. So in a way, you can call it white lies, or you can call it micro lies, or half truths, in the sense that a person who is a feeler is actually more preferred to tell these half truths or half lies or white lies, purely because of the fact that maybe they've made in that position, in that split sense of time, where they feel that this is better for the overall harmony of the group, right? Because as feelers, we make our decisions, or part of our decisions, based on how it affects others, and with that we actually have a really complex system in the way that we think about this, and how we analyze how our answers might make someone feel. So people that are FE users, so if you know a bit more, so this is more advanced MBTI, people that are more FE users in the high level stack, so maybe position 1 or position 2, tend to be very sensitive towards the feelings of others, and I think they are actually more prone to doing these white lies compared to FI feelers, which are more internal feelings, even though they still are sensitive about their surroundings and other people's feelings on the external sense. They're more grounded in the internal feelings and the internal sort of moral compass, right? So I would say FE users are more prone to lying, and I find this very interesting because I see this in myself as well, in certain times where I would be in situations where I might drop in a white lie when actually I didn't need to, right? I could have just told the truth in certain situations, but I felt necessary, or as a natural reflex, said something that wasn't true, purely because the fact that I felt that it made the response, the response to that situation, no matter what it was, would have made it better for the overall harmony of the other person. Now, whether they found out or not is a different story, and even if they did find out certain things, it wouldn't really harm a relationship. But it was very interesting to me that I would fall back to this sort of default at certain times, and I also question myself whether I'm a bad person or not for telling these lies, and it's like, why am I doing this? And it was, it does take some time to deep dive into your own psyche to actually understand why you do it. And I've recently just come across this kind of theory, and it kind of made sense and it clicked. So that's one side of the fence. The other side of the fence are for thinkers. Now, thinkers are people that are very logic, right? So they like to think about the most efficient way to get to the end goal. So usually they don't take into account the humanities or the feelings involved, because they look at the facts and state the facts as it is, which can rub people up the wrong way, because for a thinker interacting with a feeler might think that the thinker is very insensitive because they're not taking to their emotions or their feelings into account when they're relaying the information, right? They could be quite blunt and quite direct, but in the world of a thinker, they actually look at this and see nothing wrong with it because it's fact, right? And factual information does not care about your feelings ultimately, which you can understand if you think about it from their point of view, right? And a thinker, I would arguably say, and my friend who was a thinker would constantly tell me as well, is that he has no feelings, right? And it's like their perspective of feelings and emotions are completely differently wired compared to what a feeling user would be like if it was in the character traits. So for thinkers, they don't really actually know what feelings are to the level that a feeler would feel. And whenever I explain my feelings or explain my thought process behind the feelings, my friend will always be like, I don't understand it, and I don't get how you can go so deep in the different layers and think about the other person with so much empathy or sympathy, whereas they just look at the facts and that's what it is. And it's very interesting because the two dynamics are completely opposite from each other. As much as I don't understand how a thinker can't relate to feelings, it is completely the same with the thinker. They don't know how to relate their feelings as well, or the feelings of others, and hence there's a lot of miscommunication. And communication, as you know, is one of the hardest things, and I'll do a video about communication being one of the hardest things to overcome between two human beings, because it's fascinating to me, this kind of subject. But in essence, thinkers don't have that. If you think about the software, they don't have that software built in to feel, right? So the way that they do it is through life experience and learning from others and trying to adapt to a way where they, in a sort of way, they emulate what a feeler might feel, right, as they mature and grow older and life experience happens, and they learn to adapt. But let's say you take a thinker from this pure baseline, they would really struggle to communicate with a feeler without offending them, and vice versa. A feeler would struggle to communicate with a thinker without feeling like they're too blunt, right, or cold and inhumane as a sense. But this is where the kicker is, because a thinker just uses the facts, they are actually less likely to lie compared to feelers. Because for the thinker and the way that a thinker thinks, they just tell the truth, right? Because that's the most effective way, and that is what it is. And what is the point in lying, right? And with this trait, people that have external thinking, so the TE, kind of like people with the external feeling, the FE. So people that uses TE on the first two functions, the first position 1 and 2, they're more likely to be the ones that are like, you know, if you imagine the people around you in your life, the ones that are very efficient or very, you know, they bark orders at you, or they're very logical, and they're not afraid to voice their opinion on that, because TE is all about organizing the external world into nice ones and zeros. So thinkers, they don't tend to like the middle ground in that sense, right? They're more like binary. So because of that, they will just say it as it is, right? There's no need to lie, because that's it, that's the default. There's no need to sugarcoat things, and there's no need to lie, there's no need to tell white lies. It might hurt your feelings, but at the end of the day, you're better knowing the truth than not. Isn't it right? Like, basically. So, and the effect of that is that, you know, we find that, you know, we're harder to guess actually, that thinkers are more truthful than feelers, just for the reason that the way that they think, the way that they act, and the way that they are programmed to be factual, right? There's less concern about your feelings. If I say something to hurt your feelings, I wouldn't, you know, tell a white lie or bend the truth or hide certain things. So as in actual fact, feelers, in this whole twisty kind of way, is that contradictory. Feelers, even though they want to be more humane and want to take into your feelings into account, are most likely to be hurting your feelings through lies, but not through lies that the intention is not to hurt your feelings, but ultimately it does. Because let's say you get a situation where a feeler might be, because he doesn't want to let you down, promise you something, and then end up not carrying out that promise because it's something that is out of their control or they actually can't do, right? For someone receiving that message, they'll get disappointed further down the line, but they would have been in a way appeased in the beginning, right? So the short-term game, but then long-term it doesn't work out. Whereas a thinker will just give you straight. If it's something they can't do, they'll just disappoint you there and then, rather than later on. So, and that's fascinating to me. And I know that, analysing myself, I'm a feeler, so I've known times where I've, you know, told white lies when I shouldn't have, and I'm really trying to work on myself as well to change that and actually stop myself from not being true to myself. And I think it goes down to the self-development and self-awareness and trying to build your own character more. And when you do question yourselves, it's understanding the mechanisms behind your mindset and your thoughts and why you actually think that way in the first place, right? So this is why it's fascinating, and I wanted to share this with you guys. And if you do know your MBTI stack, whether you are a thinker or a feeler, it should give you some food for thought in terms of how do you yourself act as a person, and how does the other person you interact with, whether they're a thinker or feeler, how do they operate as well? So if you have more understanding about yourself and more understanding about the other person, then overall you can have better communication. And that is, you know, a beautiful thing, and that is what I wanted to highlight in this video. So yeah, I rambled on for way too long, and I think some of these concepts that I said in this video is a bit more advanced than just the standard MBTI letters, the 4 letters that you know, that a lot of people might know, and they take stereotypes from it. I go into a bit more about the functions, so the introverted and extroverted functions, which are actually the more advanced levels, and that is where you really unlock the secrets to MBTI as a framework. And I constantly use this framework and again bounce it off my friend who is very deep into this as well, and unlock other secrets that are relevant to us and believe that it is also relevant to others. So if this has gone over your head, watch it again a few times and try to experiment, try to feel and think, right, whenever the times you come into situations you need to make decisions or say something in response to someone's comments. Have a think about, where is it coming from? Is it coming from your feeling side, or is it coming from your thinking side? And is there a better way of doing it? So And ultimately, I would say, to leave it on the final note, is that not lying is the best way forward, right? So for feelers, I think there's a lot to be worked on, because we're more naturally inclined to tell white lies to not hurt the feelings of others. So yeah, it's something for me to work on, and something to be constantly aware of whenever I do communicate and interact. And yeah, that's the joy of self-development and improving yourself and self-awareness. So hopefully this has been a useful video to you guys. If you've got any comments, any feedback, leave them in the comment section below. And yes, I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I will see you soon.